All right, so it is time for another Artcraft Q&A about Crowfall with your host, Thomas Blair.
J. Todd Coleman.
And J. Todd Coleman, Creative Director. So it is November 2016. Just started a new test, so it's time to take some questions that we answered before this test. So some of it will be a little bit old.
True, but it's all about Big World. Right. And we just launched Big World, and it is coming out way more awesome than we thought.
Absolutely. So let's get to some questions about the milestone and other things.
First question.
All right, what do you got?
Why is gold dust dropped from every ore deposit?
Yep. Do you want to talk about the dust?
Sure. So the dust comes from every resource. So it's trees, it's stone, it's ore. It's also coming from the NPCs. Not a lot of people are farming the NPCs yet, but it comes from anything that you can basically get in the world. And you can use it. The goal is in the future, we think you could use it for your rent on your buildings, and then who knows what else.
Yeah, so we basically stubbed this one out. We're not exactly sure how it's going to fit in particular in the various parts of the economy, but we know that we wanted something that we could kind of give away as a freebie, and at the same time also use to fill some of the sinks that we have planned. So we figured, what the hell, let's go ahead and put it in now. We'll start dropping it now. That way at least we get a feeling for it being in the world, and we'll circle back around later to balancing it and trying it in all those systems.
And you're going to see this in Big World a lot. Lots of times we're just going to put things in to try out and see what it feels like, and it may not make any sense without the rest of the system that is coming in 3 or 4 months.
Right, exactly.
But we're trying down...
It's tying off at like 3 or 4 spots that don't technically exist yet.
So. Right. So, but as we saw with Big World, all the things we built in the summer, when they all came together, they all kind of magically worked.
Right. Absolutely.
But in and of themselves, they didn't make a lot of sense. So
there you go. There's the thing on dust.
All right, next question. How will the right to enter leave a stronghold via gates be regulated? We'll be able to set more or less specific access permissions for, let's say, groups, guilds, archetypes, and players.
Okay, so this answer changes a little bit depending on what type of world we're talking about.
Right.
So,
well, we could define the question a little better.
Yeah. So basically, how do I protect my city from other people coming inside of it?
Yeah.
And like I said, that depends on the world. So both EKs and the more fluid and open worlds like Dregs and Shadow, where you have control and you have management, you have players who are actually managing those cities, will have a killed on sight list. So you'll basically be able to go through. Shadowwing players will find this very they'll recognize.
They'll remember it.
Yeah, very familiar. So you can go through and you can basically say, hey, we don't like Bob or we don't like Bob's guild, just kill him on sight. For the faction-based worlds, we're just going to auto-assume the other factions should be on the killed on sight list. That'll probably be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
So you'll notice as a general philosophy, we don't typically do safe zones, like pure just PvP safe zones. It's just not we don't like it as much. It's not our thing. In the EKs, we'll allow people to turn those on. But in the actual campaign worlds, I would rather lean towards using kill on sight and guards as opposed to just flat out safe zones. I just think they're more fun. I think it's more cool. So.
Yeah, all right. The next question is actually lots of little questions about Big World before we had built Big World. But we can kind of go over them one at a time now that we've kind of seen Big World to play for a week.
Most of the people watching this will have never gotten into Big World, so it doesn't hurt to go through and talk about it. And some of the questions, some of the things that ended up in Big World were slightly different than what we planned and expected based on just available resources and how the tech rolled out.
And some things came online faster and just magically were awesome.
Did. So let's
go through them one at a time.
Yep. Sounds great.
Okay, what will the testing format be? Will players be plopped in the world without any clear objective?
Pretty much.
Right now,
pretty much.
The objective is to harvest stuff, find stuff, and protect yourself.
Yeah, so I gave a warning before this Big World milestone hit that I thought it was going to be a bit of a bloodbath because there are really no protections in the world.
Right.
You simply drop in and you have to be wary and constantly looking out for other players. There's full PvP, no safe zones, and there's item drop on death. Now, you don't lose your equipment, you just lose your inventory.
Correct.
So if you manage to get something done and equip it, it'll be safe, though there is item durability, so it's not going to last you forever anyway, just to kind of keep things always fresh and
Actually,
new.
if it doesn't get looted within 20 seconds, you get it when
You'll get it back, that's true.
Right, so it's what you lose 20 seconds after you die.
Which is most everything, from what I've seen.
Once people figure it out, then they started grabbing stuff, but before that, they just kind of left it.
Yeah. So right now, I would say it actually is not as violent as I expected, and the reason for that is because the number of concurrent players per cell, which is a single contiguous
Right.
area of the game, 256 by 256
256.
meters. The players per cell ratio is pretty sparse. Like there's a lot of land, and the players are spread
Right.
pretty thin. So if you want to go out and harvest and craft and stuff like that, you can kind of do it, and sometimes do it in a place. You find a nice secluded place, and people won't find you, and therefore you don't die.
Or if you play a duelist, then you can
You
hide.
can try, though. That's not perfect
It's not
protection
guaranteed,
at
but-
all. So, but as the player numbers ramp up, the overall number of players per cell is going to skyrocket, which means it's going to become a bloodbath. So what we're going to try and do is continue adding more land as we invite more people to try and offset that, so that it never becomes so overwhelmingly chaotic that you simply can't do anything, because if that happens, no one will be testing crafting and harvesting, and that's kind of the whole point. So I gave the warning early on that, and I'll repeat it because it bears repeating, is this is more of a foundational technology testing test than it is a play test.
Right.
So if you are cool with spending time and getting some stuff, and somebody kills you and you don't really care, you're just going to jump back. If you have the right mentality for it, awesome. Love to have you. In fact, we've even got a checklist of stuff that you can help us test. That would be fantastic. If you're not that kind of player, this is not the test for you to log into. Wait until it's a little bit more polished, because there's no protection. There's none of that kind of stuff. It is definitely a rough experience. On the good side, it is, for the first time, the actual game that we pitched in Kickstarter, and the game that we're building.
It came out surprisingly
It
playable.
is starting to actually, the real game vision is starting to emerge. So that's incredibly exciting. We also, our very first test out of the gate, one of our senior engineers actually predicted, I don't know if the servers are going to stay up. You will see, maybe 6 hours. And we did a 27-hour run without a single hiccup from any of the server processes, which is awesome. So there are some issues with rubber banding, and there's issues with all sorts of stuff.
Right.
There always is. But initially out of the gate, fantastic first run.
Yeah.
What other questions we got about Big World?
All right. How will players be assigned to factions?
They are not. You log in and you are on your own. There is grouping, though.
You
So
can group with somebody. So if we both logged in, I could say /group invite Todd.
Yeah, you can invite me, and now at least you'll show up on my compass, so I can find you. And friendly fire, that's in fact the only protection you have. Otherwise, everything is
right. You're on my team. I can heal you.
Open world PvP all the time. So
yep. Okay. Do you think you'll reach enough of a critical mass without testing windows?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. We're inviting at a pretty big clip at this point.
Yeah.
So by this weekend, we'll be in the thousands, and I can't remember if it was 3,000 or 5,000 invites, but it's in the thousands of invites.
We're gonna try and push the server until it breaks.
Yeah, and
because then
so
when it
far
breaks,
so good. It hasn't broken yet.
You can figure out where the breaks are and you fix them. And
Yep.
we actually need as many people logging in to see where the breaks are.
Yeah. So the other thing about this milestone, or about this particular build, is that even when the game servers are offline, the lobby is still up, so you can still log in and adjust your skill training, and you get the benefit of that skill training every time the servers come back up. So that's pretty cool.
Even when the server is offline, the central service is
central service in the lobby is still online, and you can go in and adjust your training, and that's pretty cool.
And we've seen people just hanging out in there chatting with each other too.
Yes. Yeah. At any given time, there's a dozen or so people.
They're
just
waiting
hanging
for
out
the
in
server
lobby,
to come back up,
talking and messing with the skills trees. So kind of cool.
All right. Next question. Will we still be able to create multiple characters since the vessel system isn't in place?
Yes, you can create multiple characters. In fact, by the time this video comes out, we should have run. We're filming this before this coming weekend. This weekend, we're planning on launching an EU server as well as the North American server to run in parallel. And you can even log in with a character to one, and then exit that character back to the lobby and log into the other campaign if you want to, which is pretty cool. So we don't have import-export, we don't have vessels yet, but we do have some of the basic foundational pieces that will lead to us being able to build all those, and those are next on the list. So,
yes. How will players get gear? Will we pick up gear like in Siege Perilous from weapon racks and monsters, or like in Hunger Games? So you log into the game right now, and there's just an open world, and you're like, hey, I want to mine something, I want to chop that tree, and you go up to it, and if you went to stone first, it's going to tell you, hey, you can't do this without a hammer.
Yep, you don't have the right tool.
And you open up your crafting UI, and it's right there, and it's called Harvesting Tools, and you need wood, so you obviously go chop a tree down.
Punch a tree, effectively. We have actually spirit weapons, spirit tools that you summon. but you're effectively punching a tree.
Right. So then you chop the tree down, you make yourself a hammer, and then you use the stone and the wood to make a pick.
Right.
Right. And then the pick gets you ore, and you can start at that point. You can go get some ore, and you can start making your first weapons, and you can start making armor.
Well, ore is really the thing that starts the actual creation of items. Like that's the gate where now I can create real weapons. I can create real armor. For armor I need hide as well, and to get hide you have to go. You have to
make a
craft
knife.
a knife. Which you have to do using the ore.
Yep.
And then you can basically get the hide. You treat the hide, and from there you can create scale or plate or leather or any number of items.
Yeah. So there is the full crafting loop is in there. We're constantly adding new recipes. That's what I've been doing this week.
Right.
And
in fact, tell them this wasn't a question, but tell them about the survival camps because those just
so
came online today.
we needed to feed players because we're like, oh shit, players are going to start starving out here with no food because the animals weren't online yet, right? So it's like, well, might as well put them in the trees. We'll put in some pine nuts and wood grubs and fruit that you can get off the trees. And it's like, why don't we just make a skill tree called Survivalist? And they can get that, and in that tree, they can make little campfires. Is now one of their crafting recipes. You can put meat into that recipe, and it's a campfire that pulses a food restore for 60 seconds when you're in it.
And it also acts as a campfire like the old Hunger Dome.
Yep, and it acts like. So again, what's cool about actually having the tech working now and us playing in a space, we can see things that we need.
Yeah.
Or content that would be fun.
Yeah.
Right? And you're just like, oh, it'll take me like 5 minutes to make that. Boom, you go make it, and you're like, look at that. It works.
And again, the thing that is most exciting to me now is the fact that we are now putting in place the scaffolding for the actual game, right? Where we've moved past Hunger Dome tests, Siege Perilous tests. We're not doing vertical slice testing anymore. We're building the real game, and that's really, really cool.
And the problems you have, so in the past year when you've heard Todd and me talking, we talk a lot about architectural problems and databases and things like that. And now our problems are more like, well, players are interacting this way in the live game.
Yep.
Right? And so it's a gameplay problem, and you can see what's happening, and you can make a tweak to change that behavior.
Yeah, so this is really the beginning, guys. I'm excited because you guys are finally able to log in and see the actual game we're building. It's only going to get better from here.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably enough questions for this month.
Why don't we answer the Ranger one?
Okay, go ahead. One more question.
One more question. Do you plan on implementing hide or some type of stealth to Rangers soon? Yes, we want to put hide on them. We've said we wanted to put hide on them. We're just not quite ready to do it yet.
Yeah,
there's so many things on the list.
Soon is the only problem with that question. Is we've got even now from the amount of testing we've done, we've got a giant mountain of bugs that we need to get through. We're gonna go through those soon.
Stealth just came online and it has its own series of bugs. I want to iron those out before we put in the hide, which is a stationary form of it.
Also, we've done some pretty significant mobility improvements that we're testing right now with the Myrmidon, the Ganetian, and next up after that will be the Knight.
He's already in. I played him already.
Yeah. So you guys, if you're going to get in and you want to try out the new combat stuff, try one of those three classes: Ganetian, Duelist, the Minotaur Myrmidon, or the Human Knight. Give them a shot and let us know how they feel. If you want to compare and contrast, log in with one of the other characters, and you can see how the old model worked, and you can kind of give us your feedback. This approach isn't perfect; it has its own issues. But if it feels way better, we'll move over to that, and we will start tackling those issues, and we'll leave.
Those are more known problems, right? We've been dealing with those problems for 10 years.
Yeah. So
we'll just deal with them.
Yeah. All right. I think that's good enough for November.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for testing. Thanks for tuning in.
I can't wait to see everyone in Big World because it's a far departure from Hunger Dome and Siege Perilous.
That's going to be here before you know it. All right. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye.